And we are here. We're live again. And we have Raider fan. How you doing? And today we are showing this game again because the other day I think I took too little time and now I read the rules and I'm about to, uh, how do you say, punch the counters. And it feels like a crime to punch the counters of this game. I would like to have another copy just to keep it mint because it really looks nice. This is Santander 37. This is a game which is published by Snafu. That's a Spanish publisher. And it is a game that is designed by Javier Romero. And it's all a Spanish game, Spanish designer, Spanish publisher. Snafu is actually in Barcelona. And I purchased this game when I went to Madrid this year in January for the Bellotacon. I went to Madrid afterwards, went to a store there, Juegos Atlántica, and I purchased this game there. I knew nothing about the game. Of course, I know who Javier Romero is, but I knew nothing about the game. And it's about the Spanish Civil War, and it's a topic that is rare. So it catch my attention on several levels. And so let's take a closer look. I've read the rules. That's you may dismiss the game saying, it's a folio game. You know, it's how deep can a folio game be? Well, for a folio game, I think it has a lot of chrome, and it's not very complex, but it has very interesting situations, beginning with the map. And let's take a closer look at the map now. Another reason I'm doing this video, if you notice, the title is in Spanish, and I wanted to catch the attention of some Spanish subscribers. So you can write in the text in Spanish or English, however you want, because I want to do more live streams at certain hours for Spanish subscribers because it's 5 hours later than where I am right now, which is in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So today's Saturday, there's no hurry. So let's take a look at the map. This is a paper map. And we're gonna, before I show you the map, let me show you just a little toy I've been playing with these days so that you know how things are done. This is a Stream Deck and it's been programmed. It's taken me a week. And for example, I have buttons and I'm gonna use, when I show you the map, for example, quick in, quick out, then we can have slow in. So it goes slowly. That one lasts like 10 seconds. I'm not going to show you the slow out because, I mean, this is a wargaming channel afterwards. And then this one has a pan effect, which you'll see that it pans from left to right and then right to left. And of course, I have also the freeze effect because I don't like to show hands on the map. And the freeze effect, for example, we go back here, we freeze, and you see my hand frozen, and then I'll just hit a button and it's unfrozen. So that is this little box in a nutshell. So that's what I've been dedicating a lot of time lately. And yes, the map is definitely attractive. I really like the map. It's clear and functional and beautiful, which is a rare combination. So let's take a closer look at the map. Now, from afar, you have the region of Santander, which is in the north of Spain. And obviously, the capital is here, Santander. And you have the Basque region is here. And when the game starts, the nationalists have already advanced to this front line here. This is the front line. This is the starting positions for the nationalists. And these, at the beginning, when I saw this map, these red lines, I said, what are those red lines? They depict mountains. And I'll show you close up why I think it's a good idea to have those red lines, because in this game, there's mountains and there's also hills. And so we'll take a closer look. Now, let's see first the other things that are in the map before we take a look at the terrain. Now, in all Spanish Civil War games, there's always this issue about Republican morale. And why? Because the Republican side had a hodgepodge of nationalities, well, not nationalities, of political, let's say, tendencies or factions which were at odds with each other. You had communists, and then you had like 2 or 3 different types of communists. You had the communists that were loyal to Moscow, the Spanish communists, and then you had the anarchists, which were another form of communism. And so you're always having these issues with Republican morale. So that is reflected in this track here. And there's going to be a marker that we'll see how it works. The situation is really bad for the Republicans, and you will see supply-wise, the game shows that too. And the Republicans are hoping that there's a Republican offensive in the area of Aragon, that's off the map, somewhere else, to divert resources of the nationalists in this area. And sometimes it may happen and it may not happen. So here's where we keep track of Republican morale. Now, lower here we have the calendar. This all takes place in August 1937, starting on August the 14th until August the 27th. And here we see the turn record track. And you can see there's a weather display right in the middle. And there's 2 possible kinds of weathers. You have fair weather, and that's when you can use your air units. And you have poor weather, when you cannot use your air units. And poor weather will have effects, as we will see in the terrain effects chart, as to movement in mountains. So that is basically that display there. So those are the displays that we see here on the right-hand side of the map. And I'm sitting on the nationalist edge. And here we see the air asset display. So here we place where the nationalists are available air assets and flown air assets. So that's this side of the map. Let's take a look at the left-hand corner of the map now. And now we see, take a closer look, there is here a terrain effects, not chart, but the depiction of the different kinds of terrain that you can see in the game. We can even get a closer look. We have clear, and we have hill. See that there's not much difference there but the color. And then you have mountain. And you see the texture is the same, but then you have that red line, and that's important. It has the same texture as hills, but there's that red line which indicates mountain. Then you have river, which is that white line. The red line is a road. Then you have the big circle there. Roundel is a city. The small circle is a village. Then objectives are denoted by a red star. And then these lines denote impassable hexes or hexsides. Now let's begin our look at the map. Of course, in the area around Santander, which is obviously the capital of the province, the prize there, if you want to call it. You see it has a star with 3 points, so it provides, I believe, 3 victory points, and it is impassable from these 3 hex sides. So you can only attack Santander from 210 or 110, and it is a supply source for Republican units. There is another supply source that we will take a look, and we will be now moving towards the west. We see there's Swanses, and another interesting graphic feature that I like is that whenever roads intersect with rivers, like here, this is the river, you have a little sign that says +1, and what that means is that you have to pay a penalty of +1, and there's no road movement bonus when you use those hex sides. So you have to pay +1, and that's a neat reminder of that. So I think that is fine. And we continue moving towards the west, and we see more objectives here near Pesuez. And we have another Republican supply source, hex. So those are the two supply source hexes for the Republicans. And we'll see now how the mountainous terrain gets nastier as we move south. Let's take a quick, okay, let me zoom out a little bit here. Let's take a look now at the other side here. We see here Santander. And this, now we're going to move from east towards west here. And there you see Santoña, which is another objective. You have another river next to Laredo. And you see that there's mountainous terrain to the south of Santander. And here's where, of course, the Republic is going to make it stand here in this area of these mountains that you see, which are close to the starting nationalist line. So you have mountains, considerable number of mountainous terrain here. And of course, some roads that the Republicans have to try to block, because as you can see there between Barcena and San Pedro, you have these roads there, and those spaces are hills, not mountains, but the space to the left of Barcena is a mountain. So here we see more mountains, and we see the city of Reynosa, and the city of Reynosa has a star. And one interesting aspect of this game that has to do with that specific hex is that there was a factory, an arms factory, in that hex. And we'll take a look at here the counter sheet. You see the counter sheet here. It has the Reynosa counter. Let me zoom out a little bit. There you go. So historically, what happened was that the nationalists advance in this area, and it's really cool because you're going to roll for the fate of that factory to see what happens, and you start rolling on turn 3. So let me see if I can find the Reynosa rules, because I don't want to misquote anything. The factory in Reynosa, historically, it fell intact to the nationalists when they advanced there, and the workers refused to demolish it, and the nationalist advance was fast enough to prevent the Republicans from blowing the factory up. So at the start of the Republican phase of game turn 4, we placed the Reynosa factory marker on the hex there. Then you roll a die. On a 1, 2, or 3, nothing happens, but on a 4, 5, or 6, the factory is demolished. And what happens when the factory is demolished is that the Republican player will not lose any morale level if the national player conquers that objective. You see that Reynosa is an objective, so each time the Republicans lose an objective, or the nationalists capture an objective like Reynosa, then the Republican morale goes down by 1. But if the workers blow up the factory, then they don't lose that point. So you got a little reason there, obviously, to fight, try to hold Reynosa for a number of turns until you can blow up the factory. So that's, I found that interesting, a little aspect there that has to do with Chrome. Now let's take a look now at the counters in the game. And we have Hugo. Hello, Hugo. Hugo is in Brazil. It's great to hear. Now here we see the counters in the game. And let's take a closer look at the what the counters mean. You got headquarters in the game, core headquarters, for example. The green headquarters is for the Santanderinos, and you see there the Santanderinos in purple and green. Then you see the units in black are Italian units on the nationalist side. So you had the considerable number of Italian units, the CTV, Corpo Voluntario, Corpo Troppo Voluntario, which was the Italians fighting there. And of course, you have infantry units. Now, together with the Santanderinos, which are fighting for the Republic, you have the Basques, and you see there an infantry unit of the Basques, and you see the left hand side depiction is the front side, and the back side is its remnant side. So the Basques they start the game, you can say, demoralized because their homeland has already fallen. So if they take one hit, all you have is a remnant. And the numbers that you see from left to right are attack, defense, and movement, as you can see here. Attack, defense, movement. You have the number of the unit here. This particular unit here is the 157th, I think, regiment of the 48th Division. And those three lines is the stacking value. Stacking in this game is dependent on terrain. So that unit cost or counts as 3 stacking points. Okay, so we have, for example, an explanation of the counters. Here you see that purple unit there. There's the stacking value, as I stated. And you see that there's the division to which the unit belongs. And the yellow background means that it starts in the reserve, so it doesn't start on the map. We see also there's headquarter units. They have a bombardment strength, as you can see here. Or this is actually, yeah, headquarter units work like artillery units in the game. So they have a bombardment strength. You have a defense strength, and this means it's motorized. And then you have the a motorized unit here, the Celere brigade there. And this is the backside, which is reduced. So here are the effects that upon Republican morale, if we can zoom out, of course. There you go. So you keep track of Republican morale, but just to give you an idea what happens with Republican morale, if it goes lower than 0, the nationalists win. And if it goes higher than 5, the Republicans win. So just on Republican morale, of course, you can have a winner and a loser, and you see there the circumstances. If the nationalists capture Santander, well, of course, that's -3. If they capture any of the other objectives, it's a -1. And there you see, if the Republicans capture some of the towns on the other side of the starting line, you get a +2 there. So, I mean, the nationalists have to keep a line. They just can't advance, willy-nilly. And if the Republicans recapture any previously owned village, then they get a +1. You have modifiers for number of Republican and nationalist units eliminated and headquarters. If a Republican offensive takes place, which we're going to talk about that, that's also +1 to morale. And if the Basques surrender, and you roll each turn to see if the Basques surrender. So that's another, you have the factory situation that starts, I believe, in turn 3, and the Basques, you're rolling each turn to see if they surrender or not. So that's a situation that we're going to take a closer look at. Here are the markers. You have a trench markers. They provide a die roll modifier of -1. You have this offensive marker here. And as I stated before, the Republic was hoping that the Santanderinos, I should say, because remember, the war is waging in other parts of Spain. This situation here is like an enclave. The Santanderinos, which are fighting here around Santander, are isolated from the rest of the Republican zone. So they're hoping for a Republican offensive on another area. Actually, it was in Aragon, to divert resources. And we'll see how that works. Take a look at the Republican offensive. It's here in the player aid. Okay. So each turn, here you see, if the die result is equal or less to the current turn, that Republican offensive is launched. And so you see, for example, that you check each turn, but I don't think you check in turn 1, obviously, because, let me see, I don't think you check in turn 1 for the Republican offensive. It starts, let me see, Republican offensive. Beginning with turn 3. So you start in turn 3, you roll a die, and if you roll 3 or less, then there's a Republican offensive. And then you roll again, and you check here to see what happens on a 1 to 4, 3 infantry steps and 2 planes are withdrawn. You withdraw them from the map. On a 5 or 6, it's 5 infantry steps and 3 planes. So, of course, you're hoping for that offensive, but that's not automatic. And I think that's something that gives the game more replayability. Another situation is with the Basques. The Basques compose about, I would say, 40% of the Republican forces in this game. So you have to roll on each turn to see if they surrender. Remember, their home country, their homeland, which is off the map to the east, had already been overrun by the nationalists. So here, you surrender on a die roll which is higher than Republican morale. So that's why Republican morale is important, because if it's too low, the Basques are going to bail out. And you have modifiers there for some units that are east of a specific column. And then you have the Reynosa factory again being factored in the equation here. If the Republicans control it, it's a -1. If the nationalists control it, it's a +1. So you see, there's a lot of reasons to fight for that area there. And +1 for each Basque brigade eliminated. So you have this particular situation with the Basque surrender, the offensives, and the Reynosa factory. Now, let's take a look at the counter sheet, because there's another situation in this game which is interesting. Here we see the units. We saw what the factors are. In this game, there are logistical units, like supply units. The Republicans only have 1. Now, these are air units, but the Republicans only have 1 logistical unit. Logistical units are units that you can use to gain column shifts. But once you use a unit, it's spent and you can't use it again. You don't get it back. Now look at the amount of logistical units that the nationalists have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they have 8 of those. They have 3 planes, and the Republic also has 3 planes, but these are 3 Republican planes. The Nationalists also have 3 Condor Legion plane units and 3 Avi Leggio. These are Italian units. So in terms of aircraft units, it's 9-3. So it's a big advantage in terms of units and strength of units for the Nationalists. Of course, the mountainous terrain is the ally of the Santanderinos. This is a game where you have to maximize the use of the terrain. There's mountains and hills, and we'll see how mountains and hills affect the combat strengths of units in this game. So let's take a look at the rest of the counter sheet. You see that the Republicans, it's mostly 3 5s and 8s, some 2 4s and 8s. Meanwhile, on the Nationalists, they tend to be stronger. You see some 4, 5, 8s. So you have units with combat strengths of 4. The units come here like that in the counter sheet, some upside down. So you have more headquarter units on the Nationalist side. So you have more bombardment that you can conduct. So the Nationalists, of course, have more troops. And here you have the Italians, and they have a lot of 4s. So numbers and strength of units is on the Nationalist side. And then we have these markers. These are disorganization markers. Part of the combat results in this game is disorganized. And there's 3 levels of disorganization. And if you're disorganized level 0, and get another disorganized result, then you increase your disorganization to level 1, and that can increase to level 2. Now you're saying, why so much disorganization? At the end of the turn, if a unit is supplied, you can only reduce your disorganization level by 1. So letting your units be disorganized at high levels is going to make them less effective. Disorganized units have combat strengths halved as well as movement allowances. Now there's some trench markers that I think these benefit the Republicans, and these provide a -1 die roll modifier. We have a weather counter and turn track counter. So let's get back to the map. So here we see the map. And now that you know the huge advantage that the Nationalists have in terms of troops, look at the number of mountains there. Now let's take a look at the terrain effects chart, and that is here in the back of this, the folio, how do you say, the first page or the cover. And so you see, for a folio game, it's not bad. It has a lot of, I think it has a lot of meat for a folio game, for a small game. Let's take a closer look here at the terrain effects chart. You see, stacking in this game is dependent on the terrain. In a clear hex, 6 stacking points. In a hill or in a mountain, 4. And in Santander, of course, it's 6. And you have also in here, you have the number of headquarters that can be stacked in a hex. And you have I believe those are artillery. I didn't show artillery here. Yes, we have artillery units, which, let me see if I can find one. I remember there was some artillery. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it now. I think those are artillery units. Oh, good question. What does the AR mean? Okay, I'll have to find out. Because I see infantry, tank units. Okay. And you have movement factor, and the one encircled is for motorized units. So you see that. And the combat effects that you see there. Die roll modifiers, sometimes a column shift to the left, sometimes in bombardment, you'll have a -1 if you're in mountains. So in mountains, you get one column shift to the left, which is better than in hills where you just get a -1 die roll modifier. So you're going to have the Santanderinos trying to take advantage of the mountainous terrain. Here we have the combat results table, which is odds based from 1 to 2 to 7 to 1, and it has a number of step losses there. Attacker on the left, defender on the right. And you have the modifiers there. We talked about the trench. And if one attacker is disorganized, there's a -1 or -2 die roll modifier if one attacker is disorganized to level 1 or level 2. And if there's at least one defender disorganized also, there's a +1 and +2. There's a concentric attack bonus that basically if your units are surrounding defending unit either by zones of control or your own unit, you will get a +1. If you have odds higher than 8 to 1, equal or higher, and lower than 1 to 2, there's a penalty. And any attack in the range of a CTV headquarter, this is just during the first turn. That's the Italians get a 1 column shift to the right. And here we have some results have a B, and I believe that's a breakthrough where the defender is eliminated and adjacent non-entrenched defender units are disorganized. So the attacked defender is eliminated, but any non-entrenched defender that is adjacent, and that's something we've never seen that before, is disorganized. So you have an effect on a unit that is not attacked, but is adjacent to the hex. So that's kind of interesting in itself. And then the attacking player can advance up to 3 hexes. Of course, you have the first hex to be advanced is the one vacated by the defender. So that's a breakthrough hex. So as the nationalists, you're seeking those. And here you have a bombardment table. So we saw that the headquarters can conduct bombardment, and you have most they can do is disorganize units. And we have some die roll modifiers, depending if a unit is in a trench, in a mountain, or the bombardment column is higher than 7. And here we have the effects of zone of control in this game, which are fairly standard. Here you pay 1 movement point to enter a zone of control, and you have to stop, and you have to pay 1 to leave also. And you can't use the road bonus when you're entering or leaving a zone of control. And you can move from zone of control to zone of control, all movement points, but you get a disorganized. See, it's another little nice touch there, is you get disorganized from moving from a zone of control to a zone of control. And you cannot retreat into a zone of control, enemy zone of control, unless you have a unit there. So this is this player rate. So there's a lot of familiar concepts, a small game, but I think it packs a lot of punch and a lot of interesting situations. And I will definitely be making more videos on this game. And I will be playing it. I don't know if I'll be doing a playthrough video, but it certainly looks like an interesting game on an interesting topic with 2 sides that are completely different and playable in one sitting, which is good. And from my point of view, I like to do videos on games. I think it's a game that can televise well. So if I make a playthrough or I play a couple of turns, I think you would be able to understand the situation because it doesn't have a ton of stacks and huge maps and 40 pages of rules and that sort of thing. So I think this is a good game for a couple of more videos. I would like to interview the designer, and that's another thing. If you're seeing this video, you know you see the watermark on the top right-hand corner. I'm using this program EVMux, because it allows me to, if I wanted to, and I want to keep on using it, is to bring a person I can interview a person. Could be a designer, it can be one of you guys. You send me I'll send you my email if you're interested. Let me put the email, see if this thing works here. Here's the email, stukajoe@gmail.com. If you're interested, write to me. You have to have at least a computer that has a fairly decent internet connection. I have some ideas. You know, a lot of channels have designers. I have nothing against designers. I mean, I love the designers. Without them, we don't have any games. But I would like to also interview my subscribers once, and maybe do an unboxing. We can do an unboxing together and take a look at the game. And 4 eyes are better than 2. So that's why I've been working on getting as much light and good video on the table, because that's an idea that I want to exploit and see what we can do. New things, different things. And the good thing about being live is that whoever is watching can participate. But for now, I'm doing these unannounced, but some of you guys all kind of have an idea when I do these already. And I also want to do more videos in Spanish. That's why I titled this video in Spanish. And I wanted to ask my Spanish viewers, if any of you are watching the recorded version of this. It's 5 hours later over there. So in Puerto Rico right now, it's 8:38. So over there, it's 1:38 a.m. And of course, I would like to know, what's the best time in Spain for you to watch a video like this and participate? What's the best time for you on the weekends? Because on a work week, for me, I get home at 6 p.m. By the time I set up this at 7, it's already 12 midnight in Spain. So I think it's too late. So the question is, what's the best time on Saturdays? What's the best time also on Sundays? Okay. ¿Cuál es la mejor hora los sábados? ¿Y cuál es la mejor hora los domingos para videos en vivo donde puedan participar mis suscriptores de habla española? So this is geared for them too. And any ideas, of course, I'm all ears as to what kind of video you would like to see in live. So so far, I think that's going to be what this video brought. If you want to comment in the comment section, I'll be happy to answer your questions. But that's it for now. So what I'll do is, as I always say, this is Stuka Joe signing off for now. And looking for, where is the outro here? Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.